Scotty, Trump has certainly toned down, at least over the past 24 hours or so, his rhetoric.
Trump taking a more subdued tone. Is that for real?
I really just continue to be struck at how different his demeanor is.
But Donald Trump showed a side of him that was very different last night. You could even use the word presidential.
You heard Donald Trump tonight sounding, you tell me, more presidential?
With a more serious tone, trying out a more presidential style.
More presidential tone in his victory speech.
Bit of a different tone.
Yeah, I think it was a good tone. It seems like there's some maturation.
He looked presidential. He looked serious. He looked controlled.
Gracious and some might say presidential Donald Trump.
This was the beginning of a massive pivot. And if you listen to his words and you look at his tone, get ready for the new Donald Trump.
And beginning to look more presidential by the day.
Perhaps this is Donald Trump, too, the more presidential version.
He does sound more presidential.
To say we're about to get serious and here's the reset.
When it comes to tone, when it comes to substance, when it comes to message.
It didn't sound like sort of the more flippant tone that we've heard from Donald Trump. This may be a speech where he was trying to really pivot to being a quote-unquote serious-sounding candidate.
So guess what, Mike? That's called the pivot.
Well, if we've been waiting for a pivot, this week is the one you should mark on the calendar.
Last night in Charlotte, he completed his pivot.
Trump last night was just a complete reversal of just about everything he's been.
Donald Trump, like we have never seen him before. His speech did unveil a new Donald Trump.
Donald Trump striking a bit of a new tone overnight.
Donald Trump sounding strikingly more humble in Charlotte.
He became president of the United States in that moment. Period.
A chance to reset, put out his vision, be positive.
This speech marks the pivot moment.
You know what I saw tonight with Donald Trump? Not only was he more presidential, he was a politician.
The first time I'm hearing people say he looked and sounded presidential.
I think he became president tonight. I think we saw the long-awaited pivot.
Is this the new President Trump?
We may look back on this week or two and say that this was the moment that the comeback started.
There's a new chapter born today in the White House.
Huge moment for him. He got to dispel that he's, some sort of quack who doesn't have mental capacity.
We're seeing a change in tone from President Trump.
Change in tone we heard from President Trump.
A change in tone from the president on the disappearance of the Washington Post columnist. We are perhaps seeing a change in tone, or at the very least, in President Trump's tone.
We're also hearing something interesting from President Trump just in the last day, a change in tone perhaps.
We saw a change in tone, a shift from President Trump.
What is driving the president's change in tone? Certainly a change of tone, perhaps not totally in words, but definitely a change in tone.
Pivot towards the middle on some key issues.
So is the change in tone temporary?
Another positive, President Trump's tone, at least the change in tone, on China.
A dramatic shift in tone from President Trump.
We begin this half hour with President Trump's dramatic shift in tone.
Jeremy Diamond is at the White House with a possible reason for the president's new tone today.
What appeared to be a shift in tone.
To restrain President Trump, this sounds like it might be a moment of a pivot.
His shift in tone was certainly notable.
This is Trump's sort of biggest tone change to date.
It was just a complete 180 in reverse of tone that we've seen.
But that it changed a little bit. His tone changed. Everything changed.
Look, I'm glad that he's made this pivot over the last couple of days.
Total change of tone from President Trump, I thought, last night.
You have seen a different tone from the president.
His tone has obviously changed.
President Trump yesterday striking a somber tone.
Bringing in a shift in tone.
A bit of a shift in tone.
The president was not only changing his tone, but also changing his tune.
What do you make of the tone that the president struck?
A change of tone from President Trump.
A change in tone from the president.
This change of tone.
An apparent change in tone.
Shift in tone.
The president's new tone.
But he certainly did change his tone.